Poverty in Uganda affects millions, especially in rural areas, limiting access to essential services like healthcare, education, and decent standard of living. As poverty deepens, it leads to widespread disempowerment, economically, politically, and socially. The cycle of poverty deprives people of opportunities, locking them into a struggle of survival that limits their ability to assert their rights. Now, Dr. Livingstone Sewanyana says that poverty is a direct violation of human dignity and rights. It perpetuates inequality, leaving large segments of the population without access to resources necessary for decent standard of living. The lack of economic empowerment feeds into their issues like low political participation, as many Ugandans feel disenfranchised and unable to influence decisions that impact their lives.
Believe it or not, poverty is a major threat to our prosperity. And as we all know, when you are poor, you are disempowered. And when you are poor, you can't meet your basic needs. And when you are poor, you cannot be an active citizen. It's very unlikely that you will be an active citizen. You can impact on the political developments of your country. So poverty is one of the biggest challenges that we face now.
Nepotism is another critical problem in Uganda, where the practice of favoring relatives or close associates for employment or political position is widespread. According to Dr. Sewanyana, nepotism fosters a culture of exclusion and inequality, which negatively impacts human rights by perpetuating the unemployment crisis. In a country where jobs are scarce, the who knows who mentality is a backward step that undermines meritocracy and leads to lack of diversity in government institutions and businesses. Nepotism denies qualified individuals, particularly the youth, opportunities for advancement. This creates deep sense of injustice and hinders social mobility. Now, Dr. Sewanyana highlights how this practice contributes to widespread disillusionment, especially among the young Ugandans, many of whom are unable to find employment despite their qualification. It creates a lost generation that feels marginalized and without hope.
Nepotism is a big threat. Sometimes we argue that the unemployment rate has gone up so much. But analysts show that indeed, if it were not for nepotism, the situation would not have been as bad. Nepotism is a real challenge. You got some offices and you find one tribe there. Despite the high educational levels, the high literacy levels, that is a big issue now. And it cannot be swept under the carpet.
Dr. Sewanyana has also identified corruption as one of the leading human rights violations in Uganda. He urges that corruption diverts resources meant for public services, including healthcare, education, and infrastructure, which are essential for improving the socioeconomic conditions of Ugandans. When resources are siphoned by corrupt officials, the people are left to suffer the consequences, deepening poverty and inequality. Now, corruption, according to Dr. Sewanyana, also undermines the rule of law. It affects the administration of justice, bribery, and favoritism, often dictating who gets punished and who walks free. Now, this further erodes the trust in government institutions and the legal system, weakening the democratic governance.
Resources meant for social and political development are not being utilized the way they should, and as such, many areas go unattended to. Look at the health, look at education, look at the road infrastructure. Generally, a lot leaves to be desired. So corruption is a real issue.
There is a call for stronger anti-corruption measures, better enforcement of laws, and more transparency in public offices to combat the entrenched problem. The diversion of resources through corrupt practices stifles socioeconomic development, as funds intended for public projects like hospitals, schools, and roads are misappropriated, leaving the most vulnerable people to suffer the consequences. Nora Osende for UCTV News.